okay, this is one of those kind of embarrassing videos where you have to kind of do the same topic twice in a row because you missed a few things. But mostly this is going to be more of a slideshow than previous, just to kind of show a lot of kind of style mistakes and errors I made based on, internet pictures that I had seen. And I'll likely do another video in this vein later, but I wanted to do this before I talk about more quality kilts, for continuity's sake, I guess. Uh, so, yeah, one of the things I sort of touched on briefly in the last episode was uh, the range of tartans available. Obviously, that increases the more money you're willing to spend on higher quality kilts. If you're getting them from Amazon or whatever, you're kind of limited on what tartans. So a lot of what I call these are compromise tartans, where it's like, okay, I really like this one, but it's not available in my price range, or you know, well, that's usually it's just a price range issue, but not always. Um, and I've had people complaining to me about oh, I can't see your, enough good pictures to know, what this kilt really looks like, kind of thing, and it's like, well, when I buy the kilt new, I'm literally selecting from like a little 2-inch thumbnail of what I think the tartan might look like most of the time, and 3 weeks or 3 months later, or whenever it arrives, you might be surprised. Okay, I guess it's kind of close to what I mean, I talked about that Royal Stewart one that I don't have anymore. And I posted, I think at least one photo. There will be more here. What you might not notice up close is that there's actually no green in it. It had only blue. So instead of trying to match it, as a kind of a Christmassy kilt, I was constantly trying to match it with more of a blue or a red jacket than anything green, because it just didn't have the green in it to give it that festive holiday vibe or whatever that the true tartan is supposed to have. Not that I bought it necessarily to be a Christmas tartan, but I think, most people associate red and green as a Christmas kind of color. So if you wanted to use it that way, you felt like you couldn't. um, so let's see. I had talked briefly about the Scottish store. I wrote long blogs about this, I don't know, 5 years ago or 4 years ago or something. And I've been debating whether or not I should publish them as kind of a pamphlet, haha, or if I should kind of read them in a thing like this. But I think most of it would be more humorous than, practical tips. So for now, I'll review them for maybe the next video or two, and maybe come back to that. But at the time, the one thing I will share, was the woman was literally kind of the gatekeeper, oh, you're not part of this clan, you can't buy that one. You're not part of this clan, you can't buy that one. And, Scottish descent people that I've talked to since have all been, lady, if I'm spending $600 or $800, I'll buy whatever damn tartan I want. And, unfortunately, like I said, that gets a lot more limited when you get into more budget range stuff. You can't buy whatever damn tartan you want. You can buy whatever damn tartan you want that's available. So split the difference. But obviously, one of the key components of making a kilt outfit look halfway decent is, the jacket. A lot of times it'll be too hot for the jacket, and you'll see a lot of guys who substitute a vest instead. When I first got rolling, I thought that the only proper jacket was basically the tuxedo or Prince Charlie jacket. So I bought one of those, which was pretty inexpensive and still kind of fits. Um, then I saw some more pictures and said, oh, the Argyle jacket is actually more useful or practical, or the one you see the bagpipers in the most. So I bought one of those too. Um, but before I bought a proper one, I thought I could get away with going to a tailor with some kind of inexpensive polyester sport jackets, and or actually they were suit jackets. Maybe I don't think they were blazers. I think they were actually meant to be suit jackets, but they were very inexpensive, and I had bought them on clearance or something. So they were the short version, which I thought would be better, but of course made them all smaller, so they were constricting, which is a problem I've had that I've talked about in the tweed video, I think it was. Um, but I had taken a blue one to well, I had done a bunch of these photos that some of you have seen, where I took like a regular blazer and tried to make it work, and of course it just doesn't work. The dimensions are all wrong. And so I had gotten these other cheap blazers and took them to the tailor and tried to get them kiltified, I guess. And they didn't do the worst job. They took longer than they should have. They didn't completely understand all of the instructions I was trying to give them. They weren't English speaking as their first language to begin with, but the workmanship wasn't terrible, but they didn't understand certain things, and rather than call, they would just kind of blunder ahead with their own way. Then they promised me they'd fix it all, oh, no charge, no charge. And I was like, no, but I've already waited too long. Like, it's fine. Like, I don't care anymore. Just give it to me. I wanted to wear it last week and I didn't have it, kind of thing. And so I got a black one done like that and a blue one done like that. And they came out reasonably well enough, though, that like the outfit was elevated, so I wore literally the cheapest $35 kilt, out and about, and people didn't notice that it was a cheap kilt because they just liked the outfit. I would get, these, oh, wow, good job, compliments, kind of thing. So, you know, if you're not standing next to somebody in a, more proper get up, you'll still get away with it. I would not have worn those homemade versions necessarily to a wedding or something, but for a casual thing, or maybe if it was a wedding where you didn't really know anybody and you were just kind of like, it's good enough. I'll be the guy in the kilt kind of thing. But haven't been to that wedding yet. Anyway, so yeah, I had a couple of those done. You couldn't get the. I couldn't think of any way to try and explain the gauntlet cut to him at all. So I had an overlay done instead, which is I think called the Brimar style, and figured it was fine. I don't don't prefer the polyester look for clothes, as a rule. But again, when I was just starting out, just looking at pictures off, Yahoo Images or whatever, like it looked like polyester was the common preferred fabric. So, and I could get these jackets for about $100 or whatever. I don't. The ones I had made done, I think it was like $60 for the actual jacket, and then more for the tailoring. So what I thought was going to save me money probably ended up costing me more money than just buying the one off Amazon that came with the vest. So yeah, your mileage may vary, but then later when I had some other tweed jackets that I had kind of outgrown that were like a little bit tight on me, since the kilt jacket's not meant to be buttoned anyway, I went to a different tailor with those and had those modified, and they actually turned out even nicer. And since they're a lightweight tweed and not too heavy, I can, kind of get away with wearing them casually at festivals where you don't want to be the polyester look anyway. You don't need that shiny trying to look more formal style, and so they work really pretty well for that. For again, not saving a ton of money, but getting sometimes a nicer tweed design than just a plain green or a plain gray. So your results may vary again. Again, same problem. Uh, the English speaking thing, the not being able to do the gauntlet cuff thing, the pockets being slightly in the wrong position thing. They're not going to be perfect. You're not saving that much money. You're having to wait to get it done. But most of the stuff that you order from Scotland takes forever to get here anyway. So I probably got it sooner than I would have if I had ordered, all more proper jackets. Yeah, these pictures are really all sort of out of order. It would be almost impossible for me to remember exactly which kilt I bought, when, but I remember about when I bought most of them and what I was trying to do. And so hopefully that's pretty clear from most of the pictures. Obviously, the first one, the ugly green Irish one, I wore that to the festival, and I was it's just where I have the photo. I was wearing the dark green cable sweater and the beret because it was like the closest thing I had to what I thought looked, okay. And it was kind of a drizzly morning. And some guy was trying to talk to me though, and I was, trying to use the restroom, and he's kind of standing like too close behind me. Oh, you're new to this, like I'm, because he sees me kind of struggling to kind of finish my business. It's like, well, usually I'm not struggling as much when somebody's, not breathing down my neck. But what had actually happened was my sporin chain, that little connector hooky thing on the cheap ones, they kind of get loose and they don't always hold, and sometimes they'll come off. In this case, though, it had worked its way into the acrylic fabric because the fabric was such a loose weave that the hook had actually gotten into the thing. And so I was trying to get my sporin chain disengaged from my kilt and do all this while, trying to, and this guy, he wants to talk to me about whatever his hobby is that I, wait outside, talk to me outside. Like, this is weird. Like, I've never had this happen. You know, is this just because I'm wearing this today and you can tell it's a cheap kilt and, you're trying to, feel me out or something? I don't know what that's supposed to be all about. But so, but this, I've had problems with this chain things before, getting caught on the loop when you're trying to slide the chain through. There's the two little loops on the back on most kilts that most people consider belt loops, which is kind of how I, use it too. But it's also a sporin kind of guide, and I've had the chain like hooked onto that, and it's always when you're in a hurry to get out the door too, like, really, now I have, so you have to kind of take everything off, start all over again, and like for some new, half the time I think, well, wouldn't it be easier if I put it on when I got there instead of trying to wear it in the car? But most of the time I still wear it in the car anyway. um, but I was definitely going to make a much more detailed video about accessories later, so I didn't really want to get into that. Oh yeah, actually, that first green one wasn't my first one. That was actually my second one because the first one I bought was a size too big and it fell straight to the ground, and I had to go through the rigmarole of returning the entire thing. And then I was too scared to go one size smaller, so I went two sizes smaller. So I grew out of that one almost immediately. Whereas the original one I bought would probably fit me fine now. But even with the adjustment on the straps, you find that it's not, you still have to be pretty dead on with your sizing uh, overall. And also with the square apron, a lot of people will comment and notice on these cheaper kilts that that one corner kind of sticks out on the bottom on the one side. I think it's because they don't use a proper A line on the apron, so you're getting more of kind of a square apron, so that there's an odd geometric physics principle at work there that I don't quite understand. And you'll never look like they do in Hollywood. I'm going to do probably a separate video about the myth and the reality. You think you're going to look like Braveheart, and instead you look like some of these photos that I've posted. But again, it's trial and error. If you don't blow too much money first starting out on silly avenues and odd tangents and trying to figure out what works, it's not that bad. Like I said, a couple, definitely bucks that I wish I had better spent here and there. But the kilt was so inexpensive that the accessories actually cost more than the first couple kilts I got. Before I jumped, like I said, from about the $30 range to kind of more the $60-$80 range. And most of those kind of jackets and things, like I said, I can still wear with nicer kilts, and there will be better slideshows for that probably in the next video. Well, yeah, this video episode is a little bit longer than I kind of anticipated, but I still do actually have a couple points. I'm not sure. I would have to get them all out and remeasure them all, but it seemed kind of like the cheaper kilts were sewn down somewhere between 3 to 5 inches on the back. What part is called the fell, I believe. Um, and then some of the better ones, I think, were kind of averaged around 7-8 inches. I think 7 or 9 somewhere in there was kind of the standard. So I could kind of measure how cheap a kilt seemed by how much actual sewing there was. Again, these are all machine sewn. Um, I had the one kilt blew 2 or 3 stitches. One of the other kilts blew one. I'm not sure though that was strictly from me wearing them. I think partly that's because I machine wash them. Again, that's part of the reason I got them in the first place, is because they were low maintenance, semi disposable things. I guess the main advantage with the acrylic is that it's not itchy at all. And like I said, a lot of people can't tell that it's cheap, so it's good for hot weather. And what you wear with it can kind of make it still look fairly presentable if it's not, if they don't know any better, or even like I said, even the worst kilt can look halfway decent with a decent jacket. Would I wear a much nicer jacket with that cheap a kilt? No, because then you're gonna notice they're they're not this, like, oh, this, okay, this is just too cheap to go with that. But obviously there's many cons to acrylic and that kind of thing, and the main one is that it is cheap. Like I say, you can't hide it, forever or whatever. And yeah, I think that can wrap it up for now.